So, I managed to survive senior high school at the University of Santo Tomas, which is not only the oldest, but also one of the most prestigious schools here in the Philippines. And I did it with little to no effort. How did I do that? Well, let's talk about it. Hey guys, before anyone says anything, no, I'm not a genius. I'm not advanced. I don't have anything that would give me any sort of advantage over everyone else. I was just your average high school student, and my grades show that. See? See? Average. The big difference between me and most other students is that while most other students would spend their time studying and actually preparing, I spent most of my time doing shit like this.
Melody, you can be my cybernetic dream. Logging on the stream, Shotty always doing etchy things.
Yup. For almost all of the 2 years I spent studying at UST, I barely did any studying. Most of my days were spent off watching anime, playing video games, or just plain old sleeping in. Now I know what you're thinking.
Well, if you passed without studying, you must have cheated, right?
No. Did you hear what I said in the intro? Little to no effort. Little to no effort. Do you guys know how hard it is to cheat and get away with it? Doing that is just too much work. And that's work that I'm not willing to do. I'd honestly rather fail than try to cheat. Not because it's morally wrong or anything. You can do what you want. If you're gonna cheat, you cheat. You do you. But because I'm too lazy to cheat. Well, if I didn't cheat, then how did I do it? How did I pass senior high school doing basically nothing? Well, my friends, it's simple, honestly. I present to you John Smith's guide to passing senior high school without having to lift a finger. Actually, that sounds way too long. I don't like it. Here is how to pass senior high school with no effort. Yeah, it just seems like too much of a clickbait, I don't know. Here is passing senior high school made easy. That just seems like a lie now. Nah, not really that easy, honestly. Here is a lazy boy's guide to passing senior high school. Ooh, yeah, I like the sound of that. Let's keep that. First and foremost, and probably the most important thing you have to do, listen to your professor. If you want to make sure you have a lot of free time during your senior high school life, make sure that during class hours that you actually listen to what your professor has to say. Understand what the professor is teaching you when he's teaching it to you. Listen to them. This is the crux of this entire guide. If you don't listen to your professor, none of the other things I say can be applied here, okay? So make sure, before your class is over, before your period is over, that you at least understand 90% of the lesson that they taught. Trust me, if you already know the lesson, everything else will be so much easier. And on that note, next step, ask questions. Like I said, you need to understand the lesson before the professor leaves, and to do that, you need to ask questions. If there's something you don't know or you don't get, raise your hand. Come on, I understand. Maybe some people are scared or they just don't want to ask questions. They feel like it's intimidating. Please don't think that. It is literally their job to teach you. The teacher is there to help you, okay? I'm telling you guys, most of my senior school life, almost all of my classmates don't ask questions during the lesson. And it's so dumb. While the professor is teaching, they don't ask. But as soon as the professor is gone, they go like, what the heck is meiosis? Why are you asking your classmate? The teacher was there. He literally asked if there were any questions and you didn't raise your hand. Why? What? So don't be afraid to raise your hand and ask questions. Remember that they are there to help, and whatever question you ask, if it's within their capability, they should answer. They will answer, okay? Next step. Take notes. If you want to make your life so much easier, make sure you take notes. You don't have to write down everything the professor says word for word. No. When you write notes, just write down the important things. You know, the professor said a term here, and okay, that's important. Okay, this is that. Make sure you can distinguish the things that are important and necessary for this lesson to the things that aren't. And only write down the things that are important. Okay? Why is taking notes so important? Well, let me show you. So, I was gonna grab a textbook and show you guys like, oh, it's important to take notes because look at this thick book. You think you're gonna read through all of this? But I apparently don't have any textbooks around, so we got this. It's roughly the size of a textbook. So yeah, imagine this is a textbook. Look at how thick this is. Come on, look at that. With all of this material, 90% of what's in this textbook isn't even gonna be on the final exam. Isn't even gonna be in any of the quizzes. Isn't even gonna be important. So that's why you have to take notes. Next step. Don't memorize. Memorization only really works in junior high school. When you reach senior high school, that's just not gonna cut it. Senior high school will challenge your critical thinking abilities. In senior high school, they won't ask you what mitosis is. They'll ask you what will happen if in the second part of mitosis, something fails, blah blah blah. What if in the third stage of meiosis, something stops, and then how many more blah 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 will blah blah blah. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Memorization won't get you too far into your high school. You don't need to memorize all the terms. You don't need to memorize every single word. Just make sure you know the general idea of what's being taught. Understand the lesson. That's the most important part. Next thing. Review only when you need to. That's what I did. Only when I know there are quizzes. Only when I know there are exams. That's the only time I actually review. I don't reread every day. I don't read the books because that's just a waste of time. If you follow my first step, then you don't have to. You don't need to keep reviewing. You don't need to keep rereading because you already know the material. You know the lesson. Because when the lesson was taught, you understood it. Therefore, you don't need to keep studying because you already know it. You don't need to study that much. Review when you need to. And you'll have a lot more free time, trust me. And on the topic of reviewing, only review what you need to. Ask your professor, sir, ma'am, what's gonna be on the quiz? Sir, is this content, is this part of the quiz, sir? Up until when? Know the necessary topics that you need to review. If you know what you need to review, then you won't over-review. Because that is how you waste time. Reviewing things you don't even need to review. So make sure you know what's gonna be on the test, you know the important things, and review those. Everything else, just ignore it. Next, if you want to pass senior high school while being completely lazy, pass your requirements. Most of the time during the first day of school, professors will tell you, okay, these are the things I require for my subject. Usually it's 2 long tests, 1 final exam, and I believe 1 or 2 petas. If you know those are the things that are important, focus on those because it's hard to pass a subject if you're missing some requirements. If you didn't pass something or you're absent for that, that'll be an instant 0. So make sure for every test, for every peta, you're there and you passed it and you did it. When we're talking about requirements, manage your time. Here's an actual helpful tip I can give you. Know your limits. When I say that, I mean know how long it takes you to do something. Example for me, I know I can easily write an essay in like 30 minutes. I know whenever a professor would give a requirement of an essay, I don't have to stress about it because I know I can easily do it. On the other hand, when a teacher gives a project that requires a lot more finesse, something like drawing your mind map or something like that, I'm not a good drawer. So I know in myself that a mind map would take way too long, so I have to actually do that early. If it helps you, you can probably use like a planner, a scheduler, or whatever for you to keep your schedule, to make sure that you have enough time to do everything that you need. If you plan out, you make a schedule and you stick to that schedule, you'll have so much more free time to do the things you actually like. Yeah, manage your time wisely. Next. Something I found out is that it's a lot easier to be lazy when there's people to be lazy with. So, find like-minded people. Find people who think like you. Find the laziest of the lazy and get close to them. Be friends with them and hopefully you'll pass together with them. Now, for my final and probably most important tip, if you want a stress-free senior high school life, don't care about your grades. Your grades are gonna be the biggest source of stress in your high school life. So just stop caring. Who cares if you get a 98 or an 89? Who cares? Don't stress about that stuff. That number doesn't define you. It doesn't tell you how good you are. Always remember that grades, it's just a number. So stop caring about your grades and just enjoy your life, okay? Now I want you all to know that these tips, they aren't the end-all be-all. These are just the things that work for me and that got me an easy and stress-free senior high school life. Maybe these things don't work for you. I don't know. Try these out. Maybe it works. If it doesn't, then just find some other way. Wonder if I should put a disclaimer in this video. If people fail because of me, I'm gonna feel pretty bad. Yeah, I should put a disclaimer. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own pace. Find yours and stick to it. For me, these things made my senior high school life as fun as they could. But I probably did get lucky a bunch of times, and that's probably why I passed. So, to any incoming high school students, or if you're a high school student, take these tips with a grain of salt. And please just make sure Just be happy. It's just high school. It's not that important. To be happy, enjoy your life, and it'll be okay. Probably. Thanks for watching.